Hello, fellow YouTubers. Thanks for watching my video here. If you watched any of my other videos, you know I like to just talk and talk and talk about anything and everything. And I thought I'd talk about like what I think is wrong with the world today, like especially with the United States. It's like and like to show you what my perspective's from. I graduated high school, then I joined United States Marine Corps. I served in there for 4 years and I got out. I went to college, had some jobs, and then got laid off like in 2010 because the economy was getting bad and stuff, and got kind of rough. Then I decided to start my own business. I had like $600 in my pocket, and I made it work. It's been working now for 2 years. It gets me by and stuff for now. So, but it's at least it doesn't feel like I'm living off the system and shit like that. I do everything I can. I never really ask for anything in return. I just try to do my fair share of work, and that's all I can do. I don't really believe in handouts. I know that some people they don't have a choice, plus it depends where you live in the country and stuff or in the world. There's nothing wrong with handouts, but if you're going to live your life that entire way and not do anything about it, then yeah, then I have a problem with it, and I'm sure a lot of other people do too. Everybody needs a handout every once in a while. People shouldn't get handouts every single day. And honestly, people that do that, I don't even know how you sleep at night. But anyway, I thought I'd talk about the world today. What I did in Photoshop. I made up a image here that's on the screen, and I just started brainstorming and slapping on stuff like text and words and such about what was coming to my mind about like the world today and why we have so many problems and such. As you can see, I did a lot of brainstorming. And one thing I guess I'd like to get out in the open is like, especially like with this term conspiracy theory. It seems like the media, anytime they want to downplay something, or anytime a president wants to downplay something, or anybody in a position of power that wants to downplay a story that's important or anything, it's a conspiracy theory. Like like with Benghazi right now, they were trying to label that as, it's a conspiracy and blah 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 and such, but this is the truth. I mean, uh, and that's, as you can see, it's just one of the words on my thing, and it pertains to what's wrong with the world today. Here we have a situation where people actually died, an ambassador and two Navy SEALs and somebody else. Um, they supposedly requested for backup and help, and nobody came to their rescue. And it's a fact now that the White House actually knew about it as it was occurring. They knew it was a terrorist attack. The fact that it happened on 9/11, it was a pretty big sign that it was in fact a terrorist attack, because that's what Al Qaeda and terrorists like to do. Their attacks have, certain, how can I say it, nostalgic value to them. They try to make a point by attacking on certain days that have, you know, uh, like the 9/11 of 2001. I mean, that have kind of emotional values to them. But anyway, this attack occurred. The two Navy SEALs that died, they weren't even supposed to be there. They were told to stand down. But the story was that, they heard these people all screaming for help, and they disobeyed orders, and they came to help anyway. And then unfortunately, they ended up dying as well. And what drives me nuts, like a lot of things I'm going to be talking about, is the President of the United States, Obama, came out and said for 2 weeks in a row, it's not a terrorist attack. It can't be, because I killed Osama bin Laden, and Al Qaeda is crippled and they can't do anything anymore. But here we have an attack, and the Obama is claiming it's not an attack. He's saying it was just a random mob that came up and attacked, and it was due to a video that somebody put on YouTube months prior that no one ever heard of before. And all of a sudden, this video enraged everybody, and everybody just got mad and formed a mob, and they attacked the, you know, the that's this compound here in Benghazi, and just killed, these four people and stuff. So, and of course, it was before his election, and to anybody with common sense, I mean, it just seems like a stall tactic. Like he just lied about it for 2 weeks, so he wouldn't hurt his election numbers and stuff. And then now they're starting to focus on it. But here's what even makes it even more, what pisses me off even more, is that they're trying to blame it on this Susan Rice. And she really has nothing to do with it. All she did was come out and say what happened and stuff. She was doing what she was told to do. She was saying what she was told to say by the White House administration. Now, don't you find it funny that the media is all ganging up on Susan Rice when they should be ganging up on the White House administration? They should be ganging up on Obama. Wouldn't that make sense? He's the one who came out and said it at first it wasn't an attack, but now it just seems like they're trying to use this Susan Rice lady as the fall person, the fall guy for this. Like it's going to make it better and like it's going to make it go away. I really hope that's not the case, but if you go by what's happened in the past in history, nothing's probably ever going to happen out of it. Susan Rice might lose her job, and then she might not. And now all this other stuff coming out where she had investments in Iran, that just came out of nowhere, And another thing I found funny was like how Obama was kind of leaving Israel out on its own. I really never really cared about Israel. I'm like, yeah, we support them and their democracy and stuff like that. But they really never, politicians would talk about Israel, but I think, like many Americans, including myself, most of us don't know what the big deal with Israel is anyway. And remember, after the election was over, then all the videos started coming out about Israel putting out commercials to the United States citizens saying how the Gaza, like Hezbollah, I think it's Hezbollah, no, Hamas, yeah, Hamas, bombing their cities, and they have to retaliate. It's the right thing to do and stuff like that. Like, why is this even our business or our problem? Why are they putting commercials on our television sets and stuff? I don't, it just came out of nowhere. Like after that, like they're trying to build sympathy, and this is the part where I don't understand how this makes any sense with what's going on in the United States today, especially now that there's videos out, on the news and on YouTube and stuff like that. Like you see like an injured guy carrying an injured baby, and there's blood all over him, and they're showing you this video because it was apparently from a bomb attack from Israel, and then all of a sudden, like, the guy's okay. They even showed a guy that they were carrying in a coffin for a funeral, a supposed funeral. And then after they thought the camera stopped rolling, the guy jumps out of the coffin. It's like they're making these fake videos now to get your sympathy for Israel and sympathy for Hamas. Like, both sides are doing it, and it's like, what can you trust anymore that you see on the media? Like, how can you trust anything anybody says anymore, like when you're watching on TV? It's just like today I was thinking about doing like a little informative video on the cost of food prices and such. And the first item I picked was corn. Now, over the years, the media and TV has been saying, oh, we make ethanol, it's going to increase the price of corn, and now we're currently making ethanol. And ethanol is going to increase the price of all the other foods and everything else. That's like the main reason, the price of corn. Well, I went to the USDA United States Department of Agriculture, and I was checking out the price of corn. It really hasn't changed since 1980. It's actually become cheaper for a bushel of corn. A bushel of corn today is actually cheaper than it was in 1980. I don't know how many of you knew that. Like, a lot of farmers actually prepared for ethanol production and the more use of corn. You know how? They planted an overabundance of corn. And what I learned today, just off the USDA, that a lot of farmers they actually overgrow their food just to stay ahead of any kind of natural disasters or droughts or anything like that. So we actually have an overabundance of a lot of different types of foods. The ones I think that actually went up were like soybeans. Soybeans went up in price, like they doubled or whatever in price. And how many people like soybeans anyway? But but I could see soybeans that they're actually used in a lot of products too. But it's just the fact that the media was blaming corn and the cost of corn and stuff like that. It's like it just sucks. It's like you can't believe anything anybody tells you anymore. Like the media, even on sites that are supposed to be deemed as, what's those two words I learned in college? Like, well, a credible site and stuff. That's not the word though. But yeah, it just sucks. I mean, you can agree with me on this, especially like you're driving down the road and then they come out with oh, we have a survey, eating this and this and this, will prolong your health and prolong your life, give you an extra 5 years on your life, and then they'll come out next year and saying the same thing that was supposed to prolong your life for 5 extra years now causes cancer. And it just keeps doing it, and they keep doing it with everything, and they keep flip-flopping everything. So, doesn't I mean, I hope you guys see that too. I mean, I'm just randomly talking about stuff. Whatever's popping in my head, I'm just going to talk about it because I think it's time we have to start grouping together and calling, the bullshit card on a lot of this stuff. And we just can't sit back and take it for what they're saying it is. We got to start questioning what's being put in front of our face, especially by the media and like what's on television and stuff like that. Uh, like right now, uh, here's a good example. Here's a really good example, I think, in my mind anyway. 10 years ago, well, I should say like 11 years ago or whatever, when we got attacked by supposedly by Al Qaeda and 9/11 and such, and the towers fell and all that. For like 1 or 2 or 3 years, all the stuff on the media outlets like TV and internet, it really all got us to be angry at Muslims and Islam. We thought they were just a bunch of crazy nuts and stuff like that. We had a president named George W. Bush. He was from Texas. What's more American than that? And we were, as a whole, we just didn't really care for Muslims. Now here we are 11 years later, and we have a president in the office named Barack Hussein Obama. I mean, think about that. We went from totally, well, the media had us totally hating Muslims to now we actually put a guy in office whose father is from Kenya, who practiced socialism and communism and stuff like that, to a guy that's in office who's named Barack Hussein Obama, Saddam Hussein. That's just, don't you find that weird? That I just find it weird. I find it strange. Is it a coincidence? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just you don't really. I guess you don't really think about those things unless you really sit down and start thinking about stuff. Uh, but what I guess the main point of like what's wrong with the world today, is like accountability. As I went through life, I learned if I did something wrong and got caught or whatever, I was held accountable for it. If I took a loan out, I was accountable for it. I had to pay for it. Sorry if I pause here, it's because I'm smoking cigarettes and stuff right now, but anything I've ever done in my life, mostly the majority of the time I paid for it in one way or another, or I was held accountable for it. And look at like instead of Benghazi, let's move to Fast and Furious. I'm sure a lot of you know what Fast and Furious is now. Um, and the only reason we even found out about it was because one of our border patrolmen was actually shot by a weapon from the United States that was supposedly supposed to be have been destroyed. Um, so what Fast and Furious was is like all these weapons that our law enforcement was collecting and taking and supposed to be destroying. They were just shipping them down to Mexico and giving them to that Mexican cartel, I think the Zetas or whatever. And I mean, isn't that one hell of a way to break a secret, like or something like that? Fast and Furious was a secret; nobody knew about it, and we only found out about it because one of our border patrols, one of our United States border patrol men, were actually killed by a bullet from one of these guns that was confiscated from a criminal in the United States. So all we did was take those guns and give them to criminals down in Mexico, and no one has been held accountable for it. No one. The Attorney General, what did he get? He got like a pardon by the president or something like that, or whatever. I don't know what it is. It doesn't even matter anymore. I just know this: nobody was held accountable. It didn't. President wasn't held accountable, even though he knew about it. He had to know about it. Um, yeah, just nobody was held accountable. Don't you find that? Don't you find it weird? You know, when we invaded Iraq, because everybody told us they had weapons. The media was telling us, that they had weapons of mass destruction. Colin Powell was telling us they have weapons of mass destruction. Condoleezza Rice was telling us they have weapons of mass destruction. George Bush and Dick Cheney, oh, they have weapons of mass destruction. We go there. Even before we went there, the UN inspectors were saying, no, they do not have weapons of mass destruction. We have done a thorough search. There are no weapons of mass destruction. There is nothing here they have to make weapons of mass destruction. So we go to war with them anyway, even though that had nothing to do with Al Qaeda, but they said Saddam was supporting Al Qaeda, and Saddam didn't even like Al Qaeda. He didn't even support them. But we went to Iraq anyway, and a lot of guys lost their lives, our guys, a lot of my fellow Marines and stuff, and no one's held accountable for it. It was, it was an illegal war, and nobody was held accountable for it. And then we go to Afghanistan, and nobody, all we did was fight the Taliban, and still nothing really got resolved from that. Nobody in Iraq wants us there anymore. Nobody in Afghanistan wants us there anymore. And that's when this is another thing. Here comes that conspiracy thing again. They downgrade things as conspiracy. This was years ago before they even knew where Osama bin Laden was. A CIA agent, a whistleblower, came out and said, yeah, Osama bin Laden and a bunch of other Taliban were actually put on a plane in Afghanistan and flown to Pakistan. Yeah, isn't that some shit, huh? Well, look it up. That came out, gosh, what was that, like in 2008, 2009? And supposedly we had no idea where Osama bin Laden was. We just thought, what we were told, oh, he's just in the mountains somewhere in Afghanistan. We keep bombing it. We think he might be dead already, but we're not sure, And they labeled this story as a conspiracy theory. And lo and behold, what happens, this year? Osama bin Laden is finally killed, and his body is dumped in the ocean. Where did they kill him at? In a compound in Pakistan. isn't that just weird? Isn't that just strange? I mean, doesn't anybody find that like the least bit odd? I mean, I do. I do. And then the fact that they dumped his body in the ocean and nobody else saw this, like honestly, I don't know what to believe. I don't even know if he's dead or alive. I've heard stories of Osama bin Laden from alternate media outlets that no, he died years ago. That he died years ago of health problems. Obama never, or Osama bin Laden never saw justice or was ever brought to justice. So I don't know. It's really hard to decide. Another accountability issue, Libya. You know, Barack Hussein Obama launched an illegal war against Libya without Congress's approval. What happened with that? Nothing. I remember there was like 7 Congress members that were trying to bring charges up on Obama and possibly impeachment, but nothing ever happened with it. No, it didn't go anywhere. Uh, yeah, does anybody even remember that? Like when that occurred? Or, I mean, honestly, don't you find that fishy that nothing ever happened? If a president from another country launched an illegal war with somebody, it would be all over the news and we'd be saying, let's go in there and take them out. That's what would be happening, but that didn't happen in this case. So that's what really doesn't make sense to me. Sense to me at all either. So, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe you should start questioning stuff more and then not believing everything you see on TV and that anymore because the way I see it, you really can't. Uh, what's another thing that kind of drove me nuts? I remember, I guess what kind of sparked this video was like when I was in high school, we had a foreign exchange student from Russia, and I was in AP history class. AP, that stands for Advanced Placement History class. But now I hate history. Isn't that funny? But anyway, when I was in my advanced placement history class, we had this foreign exchange student from Russia, and we were getting in depth into World War II and stuff. And like in our history books, it stated that we were the reason why um, the war was won and all this stuff. And this kid just got so upset. He was like yelling at our professor, and he's like, "This book is not right. Text's not right." It's like we reasoned that war was won and stuff, and blah blah blah. And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "This is what his textbooks over in Russia were telling him." But our textbooks are saying that we were the reason that we won it, And me, honestly, I just thought it was a joint effort. But uh, then that started making me question. I'm like, well, if his government can lie to him, how does that, maybe our government lies to us too, or vice versa. So it made me start questioning things and stuff like that. Need a drink here. Uh, so as time went on, I remember one of my very first classes in college. It was like my first semester was economics, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know what it was. I just did not like economics. To me, it didn't sound right at all. It just sounded like voodoo science to me. It didn't make sense. I don't know if it's because I was too dumb or just too smart. And to me that I just thought, this is insanity. Economics is crazy. Like the numbers and the fact that we use fiat money, and then when I'm reading about fiat money, and fiat money has no value to it. It's a belief that it has a value to it. I'm like, what? I'm like, how can you believe that something has value and then use it as a currency? nothing backs it up like whatsoever except the firm belief that it's worth something or it's worth this amount. What happened to having materials like gold and silver and copper to back up the value of our currency? And so if you have a belief that the money is worth this amount, then I can understand why they call, when we have bad times, a depression. So if I have confidence in my money, I have a good attitude, but if I'm depressed, the money's not worth as much because I don't have as much confidence in the money. I mean, that's how I look at it. And I was like, it's like if it's only a belief to begin with, how can you say the value of it's dropped and or the value of it's gone up? It sounds like a confidence issue to me. Uh, I just think it's a joke that the Federal Reserve can just print and print and print money, and it's supposed to stay like the same value and stuff. Like, I guess here's my thoughts on it. And I guess they try to explain this away with inflation and stuff. Like back in 1980, you could buy a new Mustang for 6,000. Now, if you want a Mustang, it's like $20,000 to $30,000. But if you don't have anything to back up your currency with, and you have a certain amount of printed dollars out in the marketplace, how can the value get affected if you print more and more dollars? Because if you look at it from this point of view, the population keeps increasing. Like, there's always more and more workers making more and more money. So if there's more and more workers and they need more money, you have to print more money so that more workers can have it because there's just more labor hours and such and such. I mean, I I'll tell you what, I didn't like economics. Like, to me, it's like voodoo science. And like this bill that President Clinton passed back in the 90s, making it possible for anybody with really bad credit to get a house on a fixed rate for so many years, and then it becomes, varied or whatever, and it causes the housing bubble, to pop and all this stuff. I mean, this stuff just doesn't make sense to me. Um, but anyway, so let's move on to Wall Street now, which is, to me, Wall Street, yeah, it's investing, but to me it just seems like legalized gambling to me. I mean, that's all it seems like, because basically you're taking a risk. You're putting this amount of money in and you're hoping to get this amount of money back. Of course, you could also lose this amount of money. That's not investing. That's, to me, is gambling. That's all that is. And as you know, you never beat the house. And obviously the house, even if it does get beat bad, we have the government, to bail them out. That's what Obama did. He bailed out all the banks that lost all that money on all those bad investments and stuff. Not one person went to jail. Not one. So, I mean, you got to ask yourself, why isn't anybody in a position of power being held accountable and being, prosecuted or put in jail or anything like that? It just seems like if you form a corporation and do something wrong, it's not your fault. It's the corporation. Corporation possibly can get sued, but that's it. Nobody spends a day in jail or anything like that. So what do? They go after all these small fish, and then they put them in jail for, taking a few $1,000,000. When places like Goldman and Sachs have taken billions of dollars from our tax dollars. You know, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. Home ownership. Yeah, you can build equity and all this stuff, but I just kind of chuckle inside when somebody tells me, "Yeah, I own a home." I'm like, "Really? You own a home? Do you have it paid off?" And they're like, "Well, no." "Well, then you don't own that home. Do you have the title in your hand?" "No." "Well, then you don't own that home." And then somebody will be like, well, I own a home and I have a title. And I'm like, oh, okay. So if you own that home and you own that property, then you shouldn't have to be paying anything, at the end of the year, since you own that, or you're not making any monthly payments or anything like that. And he's like, well, it's like all I gotta do is pay taxes. I'm like, really? So you own the home and you own the property, but you're still gotta pay taxes. So technically, you really don't own that home. You'll never really own it. Yeah, it'll build your equity, but you don't own that land. The government owns it. And like in a state of martial law or anything like that, they can come in and confiscate your land. They can give you money for it or not give you money for it. So you don't own that. There's nothing that you own on United States soil. You may have a title for it and such, but and you may not have to make mortgage payments anymore, but you still got to pay taxes. So technically, you do not own that home. So that's what drives me nuts about home ownership and stuff. I mean, as long as you're making, if I buy let's look, what's the first thing I see on my desk? A calculator. I buy this calculator. I take it home. I've already paid for it. I own it. I don't have to pay anything for it ever again. It's mine. I can take it with me, do whatever I want with it. I own it. I can sell it, and then I'm not charged anything for selling it. But now go try to sell your home. Now you got to pay a capital gains tax on it. I mean, if you own something and you're selling it, why are you being taxed for that item if you own it? Why are they taxing you for just for the right to sell it? You're being taxed just for the right to sell that property. That doesn't make any sense. But we don't question it. We don't question the system or anything like that. So it's just weird. And then, I mean, all I'm doing, guys, is brainstorming. I'm going off the top of the head by, stuff I've read and what I've witnessed over my life and stuff. And, like, things that just don't make sense to me, And let's talk about gas prices. I call it the gas roller coaster. It just seems like if somebody sneezes over in Saudi Arabia, gas shoots up 50 cents. Um, Look at our economy. We're in a recession now, and of course, like as I predicted, we get close to the elections, and of course, magically, the price of gas starts coming down. Just like it does on every election. From what I've noticed personally, like the price of gas just starts to go down, and it doesn't make any sense. And here's the kicker: we're in a recession, and the price of gas is still going down. How can that be? And now Sandy just fucking tore up the East Coast, and the price of gas is still going down. So it's a lot of this doesn't make sense. Like out in California, like they had two refineries shut down. Their gas like doubled, like over like $7 a gallon or something like that. It was ridiculous. Just because two plants in California gas refineries went down. So now they're telling us, remember all those years OPEC was the one in charge and they had all the oil and all this stuff. I mean, if you grew up, like I was born in 75, and you remember listening to the televisions and the news and talking to other people about, OPEC, they run all the oil and we got to get cars that run on water. We got to get self-dependent, we got to have our own energy source. Now all of a sudden they come out and they say, "Hey, we possibly have more oil than anyone else in the world sitting right below our feet." It's like, where the fuck did that come from? You know what I mean? It's like now we have more oil than anybody. Like all this time they were telling us, we just didn't have any oil anymore. All the oil in Texas was used up and such. And now all of a sudden we have more oil than anybody. We have more natural gas than anybody. And I just, this is where I like to call the bullshit card. Like they were lying to us all this time saying we didn't have oil, and we do have oil. We have tons of natural gas. We have the Marcellus Shale now, which is more natural gas than anywhere in the world. It covers all of PA and Ohio and New York and Virginia and Delaware. We have like we have lots of extra energy sources now at our disposal. But I'm just saying the media and all these experts over all these years were telling us we didn't have this stuff. Now all of a sudden we do. So that just doesn't it doesn't make sense to me. It just seems like our world, especially the United States, is run by our media and what they tell us. And it's like we just take it for what it is. We don't look into it. And to be honest with you, how could you not know we've had that much oil? You've had to know about it for at least a few decades. Uh, when I was doing, I'll tell you how well and thoroughly our geography has been of the United States has been explored, uh, and just how good we've gotten at statistics and stuff and math and everything. I remember when I was going to the branch campus, like I was going to Penn State Hazleton, I was doing a report that involved looking up the census numbers for the population of Hazleton, and I came across these this report of and Hazleton used to be a coal town too. Like they used to provide a lot of coal. Well, I came up with this report from like 1942, and they accurately predicted what the population of Hazleton was going to be from 1942 all the way to like 2001. That's crazy. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's how good they have their numbers down now. Like they were able to do that back in 1942. It came out to like 38,000. And that's like what around the population of Hazleton was. So I'm like, they predicted this. They predicted what our population would be due to the coal and the falling of the demand for coal and everything, what the population would be like 60 years in advance. I mean, I just thought that was nuts. Uh, that's why I just don't believe a lot of like these politicians when they came out and said, "Oh, there's no way we could have foreseen this or foreseen that." I mean, the numbers are out there. I mean, all anything that could have been thought of has probably already been thought of or done or anything like that. I mean, it's really hard to be original anymore. And I guess I don't know. I'm just rambling here. Let's move on to another topic. Let's go on to electoral votes. I don't know why or when electoral votes came into the process of voting, and I really don't care. I'd like to know why they came into the process of voting. When if you're like anytime you've been in school and you've had a vote and everything, the number of people that voted this always were the winners. You had this number of people who voted who weren't enough, they were the losers. But now, welcome to the, US politics. Now you can have more people that vote for one person and that person will still lose depending on electoral votes. Sometimes electoral votes, like I was looking at the numbers, like I looked at Bush and Kerry, like during that nomination, and I looked at Gore and Bush. Like Gore and Bush for 2000, Bush only won, I think, by, what was it, a million votes or something like that. But the electoral votes were pretty uh, even as well. It was like 280 to 250 something. And I was like, okay, that looks decent. And then when you looked at Bush and Kerry, Bush won by like 3 million votes or something like that. And the electoral votes were still like 280 to, what was it? Like 250 something again. I mean, once again, it was close. And now we get to Obama. Now Obama versus Romney. Now Romney lost by like only 3.5 million votes. But then you look at the electoral votes, and it was like 320 to like 202. And that just makes it look like a landslide. I mean, it looked totally skewed. So now every time I get on TV or I look at the internet or watch a video, I shouldn't say TV because I don't even watch TV anymore. Haven't for 7 years. But anytime I get on the internet and I see Obama talking, he likes to do this now. He likes to say, America has spoken. I'm like, really? America has spoken? Like, the country can't be more divided. You know, 57 million people voted for Romney, 62 point something million people voted for Obama, which came out to like 110 million votes or 119 million votes altogether out of a possible 234 million votes out of a possible, that people that had the age were in that age bracket to vote. So out of 234 million people in the United States that could vote, only around 119 million voted. So I really hate that when Obama comes out and he's like, "Oh, America has spoken." I mean, really? No. A little bit of America has spoken. 1/3 of America has spoken at the best. So that's what kind of drives me nuts. And now we got this fiscal cliff bullshit coming up, and just like as soon as Obama got it voted in, the very next day he was already setting the stage to blame it on Congress. He's like, I'm up here at my podium and I got my pen and I'm ready to cut taxes for the middle class and below. That's what I want to do. That's what, and but never mind the fact that he wants to cut taxes for the middle class and below, but at the same time he doesn't want to really cut any spending like government spending. And in addition to that, he makes it like that's the only option there is. No, Mr. President, there is another option. What the Republicans want, they don't want taxes raised for anybody. And anybody, at least I picked that up from economics. Like, I just know that, like, in a recession, you don't raise taxes. It's like the worst thing you can do. Uh, but that's the way he makes it sound. And I just think it's just the way you word stuff. It's the way you present something to the mass population. And some people just take it for what it is. A lot of them do. And a lot, they question it. Like me, I question it. I'm like, that's not the only option. I mean, you could agree to not raise the taxes on anybody. Keep it, what's the point of raising the taxes on the top 2%? You don't want to cut any spending. All you're trying to do, if you watch one of my previous videos, I already covered that. All that is a plan. His plan to raise the taxes on the 2%, the top 2%, is just basically so that they can feed their government spending frenzy. That's all it is. They're going to try to milk out another $600 billion from the rich so they can spend on more stuff for the government, which makes no sense, like, whatsoever. You should be cutting your spending right now. But like I said, you're still going to be driving around, and even if Obama got what he wanted, you'll still be driving around watching construction workers, one actually doing work and 5 others just standing around in their white hats. Hell, I don't even see the yellow hats really doing anything anymore. They just, one of them's usually working, the other 2, they're just standing around. They're getting paid $30 an hour. I haven't seen one construction worker yet that doesn't have a gut that's not smaller than how can I say it? A giant watermelon. They all have these big guts and everything. It kind of makes you think, really? Is construction work that hard? My business, I do landscaping and moving and that, and it keeps me in pretty good shape. I really don't have a gut or anything. I just ran a turkey trot on Thanksgiving Day. I ran 3 miles. Do you see any of these construction workers that look like they could actually even run 1 mile? Is their job really that hard? Do they really need 5 guys to fix a pothole? It's like that guy in North Carolina who kept complaining to the borough, and they never would fix the pothole in front of his house. So for $40, he went out and bought all the materials he needed. It took him an hour. He filled that pothole. Well, the borough had a big problem with that, so they sent out what, four workers, two large vehicles, that probably consumed $80 in gas apiece, and who knows how much they paid the workers. It cost the state 2,000 something probably to fix that one little pothole that guy fixed for $40 out of his own pocket. It's just, that's the government spending. I remember like when I was in the Marines, we had our lieutenant took us to the firing range once, and I shit you not, they brought like it was like one or two pallets of bullets. They had 5,000 bullets they just told us to get rid of because I didn't even know this at the time, but gunpowder can actually expire. So any bullets that aren't used, they just make you shoot them. So we went out there and we didn't even get anything out of it. They just took us to a dirt hill and we just fired at a dirt hill for like an hour. There was like 20 of us. I remember trying to shoot at stuff that would make the dirt go in the air just to make it exciting. Actually, it gets pretty damn boring shooting bullets, even after 5 minutes. You think it would be cool, but it's not. The barrel of your rifle gets so damn red you think it's gonna melt. It's just, but and look what the government did this year. They bought over 1 billion bullets or something like that. It was enough bullets for like 5 bullets for each person that currently lives in the United States. So yeah, so it'd be like 1.5 billion bullets. It was ridiculous. Why do they need all those bullets? And then all these bullets are going to expire anyway, so I guess a lot of people are just going to have to go to a dirt mound and shoot them into the dirt. Oh, and then the fun part, after that, we got to go to the dirt mound and dig out all the shells. That was a lot of fun. Talk about a waste of taxpayer dollars. But there was a lot of other government spending I saw that I just thought was ridiculous. But oh well, that's America for you. And now this is another thing I couldn't understand. I'm not a fan of Obama, and I really am not a fan of Romney. But my hope was that people would see, well, at least Romney's a businessman. He obviously knew what he was talking about, how to get an economy going when he said, I'll get rid of Obamacare. Right there, that told me, like, okay, this guy knows how to create jobs. He knows what he's doing. He's going to get rid of Obamacare. Like, if anybody knew what Obamacare actually was, they would have not voted for Obama. Obamacare, as I've discussed in my previous videos, all it is a tax. And I really think a lot of Obama supporters, especially poor people, thought that Obamacare was going to be like free healthcare. It's only free if you make less than $9,500 a year. And to be honest with you, anybody that was sick or injured that didn't have any money that went to the hospital, they got treated anyway. So Obamacare really doesn't change that. Here's what it does change, though. Like, if you make over $9,500 a year, you have to have health insurance. If you don't, you get fined. So that's a tax, people. That's all that is. That's a tax. And a lot of people are going to be paying that tax because they're not going to have the money to dish out $4,000 or $5,000 a year for health insurance. People ain't going to have that kind of money. And especially Obama, he wants to cut taxes for everybody when he's actually giving them the Obamacare tax. That's the funny part. He's not lowering the taxes for anybody. So in addition to that, he wants to raise the taxes on the rich. So raise the taxes on the rich and then slap them with Obamacare. Obamacare is going to cost like $2,000 extra a year per employee. So how many employers do you think are going to actually cut their current healthcare programs because of Obamacare? And how many employers do you think are actually going to cut full-time jobs or cut employees altogether or just shut down their business altogether? Uh, like with Hostess, like the unions asking for more money, but I think what Hostess is thinking, we can't afford to be in operation with Obamacare. That's probably one of the big things. Heck, that very week after Obama won, there was some university in Louisiana that cut 1,400 staffing jobs, medical jobs. All you people that think, oh, I'll be a nurse and I'll be guaranteed a job. Now, the market's already saturated with nurses. The problem with nurses is that you got to have the money to pay for nurses. Uh, and Medicaid was a big reason for a lot of hospitals to have extra nurses on hand. But now Obama just took took out around $800 billion from Medicaid. So a lot of hospitals are starting to take Medicaid off their insurance list. They won't accept that anymore. So if they can't accept Medicaid, then why have the extra nurses on hand? It's just it's going to be ugly. And I'm trying to remember what my prediction was in my last video. My last video, I know I said the Republicans are not going to agree to raise the taxes on the rich, and I know Obama's probably not going to fold. So I think what I said was that, our taxes are all basically going to go up. And we're going to get hit with Obamacare like in 2014. It's just going to be ugly. But this is what I'm trying to say is wrong with the world today. All this stuff going on, and it just seems like nothing's being done about it. Like nobody's held accountable. Nobody in Congress is held accountable. Nobody in large corporations is held accountable. The president's not held accountable. It's just horrible. I think, there's a subject I didn't talk about yet, illegal immigration. And, a lot of people, legal immigrants, Obama, he's giving out his free handouts and everything like that. They even have like a website set up on a government website set up now for illegal immigrants that come into this country. It tells them how to get benefits and stuff with our U.S. tax dollars. Isn't that awesome? And it's totally legal. But this is the thing with illegal immigration, and illegal immigration is kind of all of our fault. It's like all of our fault because when we go out, we want to go buy the cheapest thing possible, that as long as it gets the job done. But if it were kept on a small scale, it would have been okay. But I mean, this is how it works out. The first illegal immigrants come across the border, and there's this one business. Let's say they sell. Let's say they sell tires. Well, all the other tire makers in the country, they're paying their workers like $15 an hour to make tires. Well, this one business, the guy comes across some illegal immigrants, and he's like, hey, if you make my tires, I'll pay you $5 an hour or $7 an hour. So he starts doing that, and he starts putting out tires, at half the cost of all the other makers, and the other makers are like, how the fuck is this one guy doing this? This one company. So, and it just kind of spread like wildfire. Well, if this guy's going to hire illegal immigrants and our government ain't going to do nothing about it, we're going to hire illegal immigrants. And you can see it today. Hell, I live in Pennsylvania, and I go past farm fields, and I see Mexicans working out in the fields up here in fucking northeastern Pennsylvania. It's no longer, down in Texas anymore, or Las Vegas, Nevada, or California, or Florida. I mean, it's all the way up to PA, probably all the way up to Maine now, where there's illegal immigrants working everywhere. And a lot of people, especially like large businesses all the way down to small businesses, are using illegal immigrants just to save money, just to be competitive. Because we the consumer, we're the ones who tell big corporations and small businesses, what they want and what they're willing to pay for it. So it's kind of like all of our fault with the illegal immigration thing. So that's basically all I kind of have to say about that. I mean, until we start making businesses, I mean, seriously, if we got rid of all the illegal immigrants in our country right now, the cost of your services and goods would probably go up substantially. When we actually have to actually start paying people American prices for their labor and for their cost of living, like the cost of everything would go up. That's just how it would be. And so we invited in illegal immigration. It's all of our fault. It's not just the corporation or the government. It's all of our fault. That that will never go away now. That's just intertwined with our society so much. We will always have illegal immigration, and the only way you could ever get rid of it is like what they did in World War II when they actually went around and they gathered up all the Japanese citizens and put them in concentration camps here in the United States because they didn't know which ones were spies and stuff like that. So you would have to become a communist country to actually get rid of all the Mexicans out of our country. I mean, we've already taken the step to being a socialist company or country. Sorry, I'm a little sick here, but yeah, we've already taken those steps. We're taking from the rich and we're giving to the poor. We're taking from the kitty that all of us hard workers are putting the money into that kitty, and we're giving it to people, that aren't working, that don't have the desire to work. And there's a lot of people out there like that. There's a lot of people that don't want to be in that situation, but they have no choice. I mean, if you live in Detroit, I mean, look at Detroit. Oh my God, it's scary. It's like Detroit could, be a shining example of what's to come for all of us in America. Like all the buildings decrepit and run down and everything. I mean, yeah, it's really, it's just look up Detroit. Look up some YouTube videos of Detroit. People who've put videos up. I mean, there's houses in Detroit that are going for like $1, and it's not even worth buying them because it costs so much just to fix them up, and then the location of where they're at and the fact that there's no jobs. I mean, it's like a, why would you want to live there? You wouldn't even want to live there for $1, to be honest with you. Oh, but yeah, this crap that's wrong with the world today is just unbelievable. I think the main thing is accountability. Nobody's held accountable anymore. I think if we want to start changing things, we have to start holding, the people that run these large corporations. We got to start holding them accountable. We got to start holding the President of the United States accountable. Especially if they do something like an illegal war. That should have been it. Obama should have been out when that happened. Obama should have been out when Fast and Furious happened. Obama should have been impeached now when Benghazi happened. But he's got through all of them, not being held accountable. Um, and especially like now with religion, like what America actually is. All this push to get, religious and the term God like out of our schools and such. Like, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really believe in the Bible and stuff like that. I'm an atheist now, and I guess I'll explain to you guys why I'm an atheist. And you can label me as conspiracy nut or just maybe a nut all in it together. But when I was in the United States Marines and I was stationed in Sotocano Air Force Base in Honduras, I was out. I was away from our tent city that we had set up there on Sotocano because they didn't have enough buildings or barracks for us to sleep in. We were down there for hurricane relief. And so I walked out to the tree line that one night, and I just sat on a picnic table. I always used to like to look at the stars and stuff. And when I looked up, there was just this like huge, like black triangular ship that just basically glided over our base. I mean, it was huge. It was like, I know I'm going by my perspective, like the size. I guessed it to be maybe 40 feet long and maybe 30 feet wide, but that's just a guess. But the fact that it was that size and it didn't make a sound. Like if I would have looked up, I never would have known it went across over my head. I just happened to look up at the right time and it was there, and it just glided by like around 35 miles an hour, and maybe slower than that, and it went right over the tree line. It was probably only about 60 feet above my head, and it was just amazing. It's like as soon as I saw it, I was like, you know what? That's not from our planet. That's just and that just changed my whole outlook on religion and stuff. Um, but I'll be honest though, even though I don't really believe in religion anymore, I think a lot of people do need it. I think it does. I always say now that religion is used as a tool to control people, and it really is. It's a tool used to keep people in check. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to go to hell, if I do this and do that, and it works. It's just like media. It's like TV. You see how people, remember the Macarena dance when everybody was doing that because they saw it on TV? Well, it comes down to that old saying, monkey see, monkey do. And a lot of people are like that. They're like monkeys. They just do what they see. If it's cool, they all do it in groups, and they do it in groups across the country and across the world. And that's all it is. I'm not trying to insult anybody out there, but you're that's what you're doing. You're just mimicking something because you think it's cool, and you're actually being controlled by a TV. You know, like tell me this: when's the last time you went to work and you talked to somebody else about something you didn't see on TV? When's the last time you actually came up with an original thought in your head and decided to talk about that instead of like what happened on CSI the night before? I don't even know what's on TV anymore. I don't care. Um, but when's the last time you actually talked about something that didn't relate to TV? I mean, you know, usually I remember when I went to work, people would be like, "Oh, did you see the football game last night?" or the baseball score, or how hard that guy hit the ball. And I'm like, really? With everything that's going on in the world today, that's what you're concerned about? That's what you want to talk about? Now, I don't want to be serious all the time and talk about serious stuff all the time too. It gets depressing, but you got to address this stuff and you got to think about it. But like back to religion again, I just think it's a tool for control, but at the same time, I think it's needed. I honestly do. I think if we didn't have it in this world, we'd have a lot. Yeah, it does. It's caused a lot of wars, and we've lost a lot of lives because of religion and the fight over religion and stuff like that. Christianity versus Islam. Christianity was pretty savage religion when it first came into play. Us going around, or I shouldn't say us, Christians going around killing other groups of people because they didn't believe in Christianity and stuff, or Jesus Christ. And now the same thing is with Islam. If you don't follow Islam, you're an infidel. You have to die. Um, but on the same hand, though, I think religion does a lot of good for other people too, and I think it's needed. Like, I think even as a kid, I really wasn't into church that much, and I hated when I had to get up and put my hand over my chest and be like, "In God we trust" and stuff. You know, during the Pledge of Allegiance. But that's what America was. All right. It Now you see like all these other nationalities that are coming into our country, which were here before. It's just that their numbers have grown, and now they start to have a voice, and they're saying, I don't feel comfortable saying the word God in school. Who else agrees? Instead of zero hands back in the 1980s, now you got 5 or 6 hands in class being like, yeah, I don't agree with it either. But that's what America was, and that's what it used to be. that'd be like us going over to Great Britain, and start populating it and stuff, and be like, you know what, we are, we believe in a republic. We don't believe in a king and a queen and all this crap. We want you to get rid of this king and queen bullshit. Well, they don't have a king, but wait, yeah, this Queen Elizabeth shit's got to go. Even though that's that country's tradition to have them, and it's a tourist attraction for them, it'd be it's got to go because there's enough of us over there now. So maybe what the USA used to be isn't going to be anymore. You get enough people that think this way, things change. So maybe that America is dead and gone, and maybe that's the future. God and everything's going to be taken out of everything. Um, Soon you're going to get down to holidays. Well, no, we shouldn't have an Easter anymore, and no, we shouldn't have Christmas trees anymore. Having a Christmas tree out on the street, that offends me. That's not in my religion. I shouldn't have to tolerate that. And it's just so one-dimensional thinking. All it is, it's it's traditions. This is what this country was built on, and it was just part of our country. Uh, and I feel bad for. I don't know. I just feel bad. It sucks. Things change. That's all I know. I've seen that over just my short life. I've seen so many things change. A lot of good things going away and stuff. And it just doesn't seem like anything's getting any better. You know, I I'm going to go back to media again because look at religion when they were finding out about all these bishops and stuff that were molesting small children and that. I mean, who got punished? Did anybody get punished? Did anybody go to jail? Uh, was this were these churches forced to close down? Did they lose any money? No, no, they didn't. They didn't. But look at it. Look at Penn State now. Look at Penn State. They had Jerry Sandusky who molested. What was it? It was 15 or less kids, and now they've been severely punished. No bowl games for 4 years. They can't make any money really off their football games anymore. And it doesn't only affect them; it affects all the small businesses around their area and everything. I mean, it affected almost everybody else except Jerry Sandusky. Yeah, granted he gets to go to jail, but is anybody else in jail yet? No. The people that covered it up? No, they're not even in jail yet. There were rumors around, my area that it went all the way up to Tom Corbett, the governor. That he helped cover it up too. But is it ever going to reach to him? No. That's why I find it totally, totally disgusting. This happens when it has happened. It started occurring, I guess, in 98, 99. And I mean, they basically put this school, you know, on, how can I say it? They wanted to hang them all. They wanted to, destroy it as much as they could. They gave them the third degree and everything. But look at all these religious outfits. This child molestation stuff's been going around in all these churches for decades, possibly 100 years, possibly thousands and thousands of victims, and all they really get's a slap on the wrist. I mean, you got to start looking at that stuff and questioning it. Why is it like that? Why isn't any of these hot shots, these big shots, being held accountable? Why didn't anybody from Wall Street go to jail that caused this gigantic depression or recession that we have right now? You know what I mean? Don't you find that a little bit funny? I mean, it's it's disheartening. So, but if you ask me, what's wrong with the world today? It comes down to accountability, and I honestly, I think the country's just becoming more and more divided as well. We just can't agree. We can't compromise anymore. Compromising is weak. No more compromising. If you do, you're a failure. It's uh, it's just sad. So, uh, we don't want the country to be divided, but at the same time, even if we didn't have minorities or anything like that, our country would still be divided. Why? Because we have a Democratic Party, we have a Republican Party, they have liberals, and they have conservatives, and they have right wing and left wing. I mean, how more divided can you get when you take half the population, you call them Democrats, and the other half, and you call them Republicans? How divided can you be when you have an electoral vote system that says, well, this, and it's possible, you can go through and run the numbers, you could actually get more votes than the other guy, but still lose because of the electoral vote system. It's all a big game. That's just what it seems like, and sometimes it doesn't feel like reality anymore. So, uh, I don't know. Please leave your comments and down below if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about. I tried to cover a lot in this fun. I just felt like talking tonight. It was really on my mind today. I just, but yeah, please leave your suggestions and comments below, and please subscribe to my channel. I can talk about anything really. I read a lot. So, all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one.